listening to the Author Inside You podcast, a weekly podcast designed to motivate you to finish writing a book, choose a publisher, and have your work build an audience. Keep listening if you're looking to get propelled into the next chapter of your life. And now, it's the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.
Hello, and welcome to the Author Inside You podcast. I'm Matt Rafferty.
And I'm Leah Rafferty.
Joining us today is Rocky Romanella, author of Tighten the Lug Nuts, The Principles of Balanced Leadership. Rocky was born in New York City and after high school started working as a loader and unloader at UPS. From there, he rose through the ranks and became president and general manager of UPS Supply Chain Solutions. Rocky is now founder and CEO of 360 Management Services. Welcome, Rocky. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Matt and Lee. It's a pleasure to be on your show, and I look forward to our discussion this evening.
Well, Rocky, it seems like you've done a lot. You've had a wonderful career, and then you decided to write a leadership book. But why did you decide to write in a character's voice instead of your own?
Well, I wanted the book to be authentic, and I wanted the book to really reflect who I am as an individual and as a person. And so for me, throughout my career, I always used this character, Joe Scafone, to help me manage. And the way I used Joe to help me manage was I never wanted, when someone brought me an idea, Leah would bring me an idea, and I never liked the feeling of saying, well, Leah, I think I would do it differently, or maybe you should look at it this way. I always felt like that could sometimes cut off good dialogue. And so I would say, Leah, you think Joe Scafone thinks that's a good idea? You think? And so Joe Scafone became this character who helped me manage, but also helped me challenge people to be the best they could, to maybe not stop at that first right answer, but challenge them in a way that didn't, put them off or maybe challenge them in a way that would make them feel bad about their idea. So as time went on, people came to recognize that Joe Scafone was a key player with Rocky Romanella. And so it's funny, people would come to a meeting and say, I got this idea. Hey, I covered it with Joe. Joe thinks it's a good idea as well. So it was very easy for me to write the book from the voice of Joe Scafone.
Right.
Obviously, this character worked well with your employees. It must be nice instead of when people go to their managers and have a idea, like you said, instead of being shot down, you came up with this alter ego, we'll say, and it, I'm sure, put everyone at ease. So what made you decide then to make it into a book?
Well, to me, leadership's all about legacy. Do you leave things a little better than you found it? Are people better because of their time with you? Are your customers better because of doing business with you? And so for me, the book was was about this concept of legacy. Can I write this book in a way that helps other people and maybe takes some of the things that I learned and some of the wonderful things that people did for me, put it in this book form, and so that people could utilize the book in a way that could maybe help them. And so for me, it was my way of leaving this legacy. And it also gave me an opportunity to do two things I really wanted to do. One is to recognize my dad, who was such an important part of my life growing up in my childhood and instilled in me in the values and the things that I think were so important to me, being a good person and a good leader. And then my wife, Debbie, who was such an important part of my adult life and, helped me throughout my career. And, we moved 9 times across the country.
Wow.
And so with 4 kids. And so without her, I don't think that I could be the person I am today. And so she was such an important part. So for me, the book gave me the opportunity to say thank you to my dad and thank you to Debbie. It also gave me a chance to maybe this concept of legacy, to maybe leave something that, leave it a little bit better place through this book.
Right. So did you write the book to be a textbook, or is it more for anybody, for leadership for any type?
To me, leadership is something that we all have concerns about, and we all are at one time or another. I think sometimes people get hung up on leadership as being something formal or a title, CEO or president or manager. As I always say, I have the greatest title of all time, Grandpa. So for me, that's
right.
That's
but
the
you're
greatest
the leader.
title, right? But I think that if you think about leadership, to me, some of the greatest leaders are teachers, right? Because they leave it a little bit better than they found it. I mean, if I said to an audience, can you tell me who your state senator is or your state council person? They may not be able to tell me that. But if I said to an audience or a group of people, hey, who's that teacher that made a difference in your life? Everybody stopped, tilt their heads, and would say, oh, fifth grade,
Sure.
Mrs. So-and-so or Mr. So-and-so. So if you think about it from that perspective, then that's leadership, right? Because they leave it a little better place than they found it. And so I think leadership is something we all have concerns about. Leadership is something that we all do at some time. And so I wrote the book from this concept of leadership, the fact that at some time or another, we're all leaders. And what are some of the things that we could do to help improve our leadership skills or help us to become better leaders? And so the book really, transcends business. It's really about being a good leader. And I think it starts with being a good person.
Okay.
Well, that sounds good, like in our communities. So anyone can read this book. Anyone can learn from this book because, like you just said, everyone at some point in your life, you are a leader.
Yes. And think about it. If you're the Little League coach, you're the soccer coach, you're the head of the PTA. I mean, all those things are leadership roles. And even the person who says, what, I'm not really a leader, I'm just going to quietly sit here. That may be true at that moment, but If they're a parent, they're a leader. So we all have moments where we assume that leadership role. We just don't define it that way, right? We don't, we don't title ourselves as a leader, but we all have those roles to play, and we all are leaders at different times in our lives.
Yeah, I think very interesting.
So what was your process like for writing the book?
Well, I got to tell you, for me, the difficulty was, first of all, do I have enough to say in a book? Would anybody read it, right? So that's your biggest fear. Like, am I going to read this thing? And,
oh, yeah.
And if I write it, I mean, I don't want to embarrass myself, right?
Sure.
So, that's what you're thinking. And that's how it started. But then, as you start to get into it, and as I said, I wanted to write it from a point of view where I never talked about my days at UPS because, I would be at meetings, for example, and, you'd read a book maybe by Jack Welch, and it would be the GE Way or something like that. I'm just using it as a reference point. But at the end of the book, you may say, well, I don't work for GE, or I don't work for UPS, or I don't work in a big company. So for me, while I loved my time at UPS, it was such an important part of my professional career, this book was about being a good leader and the traits and the values that both my parents and my dad instilled in me, and the things I saw from Debbie. And then how does that help other people, whether you're a school teacher or a PTA, the crossing guard? At some point, when you're in that leadership role, what are the things that can help you? So I began that process by saying, I'm going to have a little bit of fun doing this, and I'm going to write, I did it in a story form. And that helped me then to be able to, use my stories, tell my stories. And as you can tell through the interview, I love to tell stories. I think we work hard enough. Why not have a little fun doing it? And so, I was able to put in stories, because I always think stories and analogies and examples always kind of bring things to life. And so that's how the book began. And then as I started to write, it started to take shape.
Cool. Great. So, and then did you have an editor or?
Well, I mean, let's face it. I started this process thinking I can't spell. I got to have dangling participles all over the place. I mean, so I reached out to 4 or 5 different editors, and I actually, ironically, ended up with a very good editor out of New York. And ironically, when I spoke to him on the phone, he said to me, "Hey, do you know this gentleman, so-and-so?" I said, "Yeah, I do. He worked for me at UPS, and we had a connection there for UPS." So it seemed like, how like when you're not really sure of the decision, you look for anything that's an omen. There's got to be an omen. Come on, so and so. So
right, it was meant to be.
Right. I mean, you know how you rationalize all these things. So he was very good. And then I started writing a book. They were very good with allowing me to be me. And then they, I guess it kind of, for me, it was in 2 phases, right? When you read the book, you'll notice that the book takes place. Joe Scafone's is ending his last business trip, and he's on his way home, and he's on an airplane, and he's thinking through his 36-year career. And so, for me, they broke the editing down into two steps. One was logic and flow, right? So, for example, you get back things like, okay, you went to the bathroom on the plane, but never got back to your seat. Or you didn't land the plane yet. You're off the plane, but you never landed it. So it was those kind of logical flow kinds of things was the first couple edits. And then once they helped me with that, then it got to more of the grammar and more of the diction and more of, I will tell you the hardest problem I had. So to me, it was easy to write as Joe Scafone. But what I didn't realize is at times I would go back and forth between Joe as a third person and Rocky as the first person.
Right.
So there'd be times you would say things like I would, or I said, and then it's like, no, Joe's saying. So,
Right.
Well, so they would be really good and things like that. So it was good. And the last thing for me that turned out to be the unintended consequence and probably the best part of the whole process was the kids really. Debbie and I came home one night, and I think I had like 5 or 6 chapters written. And so we came home, we went downstairs, and like I said, 3 of them are married. And so downstairs, sitting around, table downstairs is, the 8 of them are there, because my youngest guy, Andrew's got a wonderful girlfriend, Sarah. So the 8 of them are all sitting around a table with a flip chart. I go, what are you guys doing? We're having doing a book report here, Dad. We're trying to figure out, how does this work and how does this flow? We think you got to change this. So it was really nice the way they got involved. They were very, very helpful. All 8 of them. They had their focus group meetings. So like every 4 or 5 chapters, I would kind of give it to them, and they would do their focus group back and forth. So that, to me, that was very inspiring, and I felt like we kind of wrote the book together. So that was really nice.
Right, and they can be honest with you, as I know with kids. They can be honest.
Oh yeah. Debbie said to me,
not going to hold back.
Oh yeah, Debbie was funny. Debbie said to me one night, "If you tell me one more time, but you don't understand." No, I do understand. That's the problem. Okay, we got it.
Well, what a nice thing for your family to go experience, another bonding experience. That's nice. Can you tell me something about your cover? I like the cover. How did that concept come about?
Well, that was so the editor also then gave me the sort of the publisher who helped me with the cover, and so she was great, and she said to me, describe to me a little bit about the book and describe to me a little bit about yourself. And the irony of the cover is the gentleman on the cover, people always say to me, is that Rocky, my youngest son, or is that my third child or for oldest son, and then Andrew's my youngest son, is that Rocky or Andrew? And I would, because it looks like both of them, right? And so I say, no, it's neither one. They say, well, why don't you use Andrew? I would say, well, who's going to tell Rocky? You know what I mean? So I what I liked about the little race car was, the concept of the lug nuts and tighten the lug nuts. And there's a story in the book about why I came up with that title. But the whole concept of the lug nuts and a car moving and the concept of things got to be kind of buttoned up. And, sometimes you feel really good and comfortable in what you're doing, and sometimes you don't. So him being larger than the car was, okay, it's a little bit uncomfortable, but you still got to keep balance in your life and the things that you do. So when I gave her all these thoughts, she frankly came up with the cover, and it was a home run. And then, of course, being a Jersey, Italian Catholic Jersey guy, you can tell the Italian flags on the car, it's like, so like all your little idiosyncrasies start to come out then you start having too much fun, and then we have the lug nuts kind of in the background. So it started out as kind of a simpler cover, but the kids all added little things to it. And, like Rocky added the tie, it's like, well, Dad, you got to be moving. So
that's great.
Yep.
So, and like Andrew liked the little lug nuts in the background.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, it's
right.
My son-in-law's. Yeah, so it really turned out to be, as crazy as it sounds, a family project, which turned out to be pretty good. And for me personally, quietly, the fact that they got that involved made me feel really good that, that they took, that they were proud of the fact that we did this together. So that was really nice.
Right. They supported you.
Yeah, and so it was good. And they edited each of them. I will say each of them took the book and read it over and had their own little edits in there too. So it was good. It was just a nice family. It took me about, I would say, 6 months to write it, and then it took about another 2 months to do all the editing. We ended up with about, I would say, 12 edits.
That sounds pretty fast from other authors that we've talked to. That sounds like it was a pretty fast process. So good for you.
Well, you know what? Yeah, I was lucky, though, in the sense that throughout my UPS career, many times I was a designated speaker, or I would do conferences or training, and so I never realized how much stuff I had written already. Does that make sense? And so part of what I did was take an inventory of a lot of the things that I did or had done in the past and started to put it in some format. And then the glue that kind of puts the whole novel it's not a novel, but the glue that puts the book together is this all the stories, and some of them, which I always tell people all the time after they read the book, what's your favorite story? And there's always a couple of them. I like that story. I like that one. So there's some pretty good stories in there as well.
One of our reasons for doing this podcast is to encourage people to try. I mean, a lot of people have a story in their head, but they're too afraid to try. And then we always say that you don't know what opportunities will await you. And I like your stories because one of the opportunities is your family. And you must be pretty close anyway, but what a neat project for you all to work on this book together. I don't know. I just think that's a really neat story that your family encouraged you and supported you like that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that was the real joy for me writing the book, although, as you said, it may not have started out that way. But look, in every decision you make, whether it's in a business setting or it's in a personal setting, there are always those unintended consequences. And so for me, the unintended wonderful consequence of writing the book was how the family embraced writing the book, and, how the kids had their focus groups as we went through the book. After a few chapters and decided what was, Dad, you got to look at this differently. And I know this is what you think, but I'm not sure our reader would understand it that way, So that was great for me. And that was great constructive criticism. For me, I thought it was really neat after the book came out and family members read the book. My mother-in-law is a great example for me. She read the book, which was wonderful. And, for whatever reason, I chose not to use everybody's name directly. And so for Deb, I was Joe Scafone and Debbie was Adrian, right? So it wasn't like I was just so creative here.
Yeah.
Right. But my mother-in-law, who I love to death, says to Deb one day, I read the book and I learned some things, but why did Rocky pick Adrian? Where did he come up with that name from? And so Debbie looked at her and said, Ma, I've been Yo Adrian my whole life. Rocky. And so we realized my mother-in-law never saw the Rocky movie.
Oh my gosh.
So that was sort of neat, something simple as a little like that. Or I was born in Manhattan, but my dad, rest his soul, when I was very young, said, we're going to the country. So we're moving to New Jersey. So there's people who, knew me my whole life growing up in Woodbridge, New Jersey, but said to me, I didn't realize you were born in Manhattan. Yeah, I was born in Manhattan, but we moved when I was very young. So it was just like those little interesting things that come out as you're kind of putting some color and creating the story, kind of filling in those interesting little things inside the book that really weren't the reason why you wrote the book. But I always found that it's interesting how people would say, I didn't know that, or I didn't know that. And,
sure.
Those kind of things. Or my dad never finished high school. He went through his freshman year and then, just started to work. And
Sure.
My cousin Joey, who his dad and my father were brothers, they worked together. He reads the whole book, and what does Joey get out of it? Joey gets out of it, I didn't know your dad never finished high school. Like, really, Joe? I mean, that's it. I read the whole book, and that's what you came up with it? I didn't know Uncle Pat didn't go to high school. I was like, yeah, okay, thanks, I appreciate it. And he's actually in the book, because he's my cousin who happens to be a doctor, and I talk about him in the book. It's just funny. It's just the funniest things people come up with. So it can be that kind of unintended consequence of it really being a fun activity for the family. At least it was that way for me.
That's
Right.
wonderful.
Well, Rocky, what are you doing to promote the book?
What's hard about promoting a book is if you're, you never want to feel like that kind of boastful person, or you're trying to,
Yes.
hey, buy my book.
Right.
Yeah. So
It's difficult to do, yes.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that happened is I was doing speaking, and part of the 360 management, we have three legs of our stool. One of the legs of our stool, one of our product sets, is keynote speaking, leadership, training and development, and then some consulting. And so the book was a natural support of the keynote speaking. And it's amazing how, as a speaker, and you say you wrote a book, it automatically you get even more credibility. You could have 36 years at UPS, 4 years in other business, but at the end of the day, you wrote a book. You must know what you're talking about.
Yes, exactly.
So that supported the speaking, which is very nice. And so, that's a piece of it. Some social media things is very good. I enjoy the book signings because you meet some really wonderful people along the way. I'll tell you something I found interesting. Some people spend a lot of time collecting books that are signed by authors.
Interesting.
Okay. Just to have them, just to say,
it's like, so okay, so that's been interesting. So I've met some really wonderful people along the way. I've had a book signing in San Diego. We've had one a couple of them in Atlanta.
Wow.
One here in
that's nice. So
you're
your
going
publisher
all over.
sets those up, or are you setting those up?
No, actually, I've been doing them myself through different venues and different people I know. I do have an agent that helps me with my speaking, setting up the speaking engagements, and certainly that helps you because if you're speaking, for example, at an association, there could be 200 or 300 businesses in that association. In fact, I'm leaving tomorrow for Vegas for a conference that I'm the speaker on Friday, and so there's 200 businesses there. So that certainly helps you from a book perspective.
Yeah, we saw that on Facebook that you're leaving for Las Vegas. So congratulations, that's good. Yeah, a whole new audience, right?
Yeah, Deb comes with me. She's
great.
She's great with the. Yeah, it's nice because you two have this wonderful opportunity to do the podcast together. And for me, Deb, it's been great. Her and I, on these speaking engagements, she's been wonderful. And she's got a nice way of grounding you, if you know what I
mean. Good.
So for the speaking engagements, you ship books to the location and then have them there for sale after you speak?
Well, in some cases they're there for sale. In some cases they buy them, and I'll sit and sign them, which I enjoy doing. The one I did a couple months ago, they bought 450 books, and
wow, great!
And I signed them all. I attempt to. I will say I attempt, and I'm pretty good, but I attempt to write something special in each one. I never. I feel like if someone's going to buy your book or someone's going to speak to you, just writing, "Hey, enjoy the book, Rocky." So I would, try to get to know you, Matt, and ask you a few questions.
Right. That's very impressive that you take the time to do that because. Yeah,
I feel like it's better than just signing your name.
Sure.
If people took the time to come and say hello or stop by.
Right.
I've always felt like it's, a sign of my respect back and my thanks back is, hey, Leah, tell me a little bit about yourself. And you may say, well, I just started a new podcast with my husband, and the two of us are really growing the business, and we're really excited about. We just got on iHeartRadio, and so I would put in, hey, congratulations on iHeart, and look forward to hearing you on many more podcasts. And so at least then when you show someone the book someday, it's nice. Oh, you really did know the author.
Yeah.
Of course I know him.
Well, it goes with your message, too. Like you said, you're trying to leave the world a better place by what you do. So what a wonderful legacy. Congratulations. Right. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
I mean, you're talking the talk, but you're also doing it, That's one thing, because some people say things, but they don't actually take the time to do it. So congratulations.
Well, it's funny how I agree. It's funny how when you're throughout your career, you learn these different things that, as I was growing up through UPS, or, I would always say, well, if I ever become a manager, I'm going to do this. And so we had this tradition at UPS that, everybody would get a birthday card, right? And so, and I worked for some people along the way that, you got a birthday card, but you knew it was stamped or whatever. So I always say when I become a district manager, I'm going to sign every card. So my first UPS district was Iowa. And so there was about 3,000 employees.
Wow.
So
oh my gosh, that's 100 a day.
What happened is once a month, my, the administrative assistant, Lori, who was fantastic and kind of, kept me going in the right direction all the time. Lori would hand me a month before, hey, here's your birthday cards for June and May. And I would sit there at the, so as time went on, I realized, this is a great aspiration, but, I remember Debbie saying to me one time, you forgot to send your kids a birthday card. You got a 3,000.
Well, they should get a job here.
Yeah,
your aspirations are good. My next district was Southern California. There was just short of 10,000 employees. I knew pretty quickly I wasn't signing everybody's birthday card. So, but so you try to find things, whether it's in your book or in your book signing or how you promote your book. For me, it's always about can you touch somebody? Can you can you create an aha moment for somebody where they say, oh, that was really nice, or oh, I enjoyed that, or it wasn't just a simple signed Rocky or whatever. So for me, though, I'm always trying to find those aha moments. And I guess as you write, whoever, as your audience listens, I think the key to writing the book is, like in life and as a leader, you have to be genuine, right? It has to be who you are.
Sure.
Right. And so if you start to lose who you are as the author of this particular book you're trying to write, whatever it is, I think you kind of get, you lose that whole perspective. And so for me, that's so important. As in your book, as your children's book that you wrote, right? I mean, you wrote a book that you wanted to touch kids, and you wanted, you're hoping that some child will read that book and maybe feel better about themselves, or a light bulb will go off,
sure,
or something will spark in them, right?
Right.
I mean, You didn't write the book saying, well, Mo Williams sells X amount of books, and
right.
Don't let the pigeon drive the bus. Well, I'm going to write something better. It's the same with me. Look, there's some great books out there. Who Moved My Cheese? Ken Blanchard wrote some great books. Dennis Snow's wrote some good books. While I appreciate how they do it and I admire how they do it, for me, I think the thing that is so important is that you have to be genuine, because it comes through if you're not, and it comes through if you are. So I think that would be something, at least, for your audience is, when you sit down to write the book, don't try to write it as you think somebody would write it. Be genuine in how you write it. Be genuine what's in there, because it'll come through.
Right. I can see that, and you're absolutely right.
And you can hear it in your voice.
Right.
Too.
Great advice. How can our listeners get in touch with you, Rocky, if they want to drop you a line or have you come and speak?
Well, so genius Rocky Romanella thinks, what a great name for a company, 360 Management Services. Well, it's a mouthful, huh?
Yeah.
Or why couldn't I just use the number 3 and the number 6, number 0? No, not me. So it's the number 3, the word 60, the word managementservices.com. So it's www, the number 3, word 60, managementservices.com. On our website, you can read a little bit about, some of the key players inside our organization. It talks about the book. You can order the book from there. The book is online at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and so you can order it there as well as through our website. You can learn about the speaking engagement, some of the talks I've given. I have probably a library of well over 25 YouTube videos out there.
Oh, excellent.
Oh, yeah,
great.
That's good. So people should look on YouTube on YouTube also.
Yeah,
Great.
you can Google, put Rocky Romanella in. And so there's some good YouTube videos. There's a couple speeches. There's at least 3 speeches I've given that are up there on there. So there's some of that information there. And frankly, that also helps, to your question, Matt, it also helps in promoting the book, right?
Sure.
I think that also helps, and I think but at the end of the day, it's funny. Word of mouth is still the best advertisement.
Right. It's true. It helps with everything, right? I mean, it helps you find jobs. It helps you with everything.
Yeah, if you can get past your family, right? Because that was my goal, right? I got about 150 Italians running around here, so I know I got 150 sales. I got that. If I get to 151, though, I'm starting to get outside here. And so once you get outside of that, that comfort zone, or get outside of the group of people that it's what I always say. It's kind of it's the Girl Scout theory of in your neighborhood. Okay, can I sell a Girl Scout cookie to someone other than the people who live in my neighborhood?
Right.
Yeah, right.
Well, Rocky, it's been great talking to you today.
Yes,
Thank you so much for sharing the insights. I mean, you have some great stories. I can't wait to read Tighten the Lug Nuts.
All right, Natalie, it was a pleasure meeting both of you, and congratulations on your wonderful podcast. And I think people should take a listen, because I think you're inspiring, thoughtful, and I think that you can definitely get an aha moment after listening to your podcast.
Oh, well, thank you for the kind words. Thanks. You. So we have another author who has donated a book to be given away to one of our listeners.
It's our friend Vicki Benkowski, and her book is Wise on Weather. If you're interested in winning the book, like our post on Facebook.
And the people who like the post will be entered into a random drawing, and whoever's picked will send out the book Wise on Weather. Thank you so much. Until next time.
Right on.
Thank you for listening to the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.